Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Inside the Circle. This episode will be March and April's recap. I can only apologise for missing a month. Things unfortunately got in the way. So we're here. We're going to recap them both. 2 great months worth of hockey. We had the World Cup Qualifiers plus the EHL. So let's get into it. So we obviously had the World Cup Qualifiers in March. It was a simple tournament structure, pool stages, knockout stages, and then it was the top 3 qualification spots, or the top 2, and then there was a third that was available for the highest ranked one. So we had the Chile leg for the women's. It was based in Santiago in Chile. It was between the 2nd and the 8th of March. There was 8 teams in it with 2 pools. Pool A was Chile, Australia, France, and Switzerland. And Pool B was Ireland, Japan, Malaysia, and Canada. The final standings on how it ended: Chile and Australia were the top 2, with Ireland qualifying in 3rd position. Really good results for all 3 of those teams. Difficult tournament. Tricky enough teams in that one. The key sort of storylines was Chile, massive achievement. Winning the tournament on home turf is just unreal. They were able to beat Australia 1-0 in the final, which I think makes it even better. Australia, they were probably the favourites coming into it, being a core team. In one respect, they beat Ireland in the semi-finals and obviously lost in the final to Chile 1-0. Ireland, fantastic, took 3rd place, which grabbed that final qualification spot. They beat Japan in a shootout to win bronze for the tournament and qualify for the World Cup, which fantastic result for them. Really could see the emerging nations like Chile, Japan, Malaysia doing really well in that. But obviously you had the top 2 sort of, in theory, on paper, the top 2 teams were Australia and Ireland, which qualified as well. We then had a men's qualifier in Chile as well. This took place between the 28th and the 8th of March. Again, your 8 teams, your 2 pools. You had Canada, Chile, France, Ireland, Korea, Poland, Scotland, Wales, and it ended up with Ireland, France, Wales as the top 3. Typical 3 European teams fly all the way to Chile to qualify, but it was still a strong qualifier for all of those. Poland were really close in qualifying as well. They narrowly missed out because of other results in qualifiers, so that was unlucky for them. You had your key storylines: Ireland, obviously winning the tournament, beat France 2-1. Great match. They were strong throughout, really dominant in the pool stages, in those knockout stages. They were getting there. It was really good to see. Especially after sort of not having that Pro League year. So it was good to see them continuously building on that. France reached the final, qualified, which was fantastic. They had a big win over Poland 4-2 in the crossover matches. France from the Olympics have just been going from strength to strength. I think they could do really well in this World Cup coming up. So it's exciting to see how they're going to continue this momentum that they've taken from the Olympics in Paris. And Wales took 3rd place. They beat Poland in the bronze medal match 2-1. Another really good team to see developing. I think it's going to do hockey in Wales fantastically with them qualifying. It'll be interesting to see how they get on in the World Cup. It was an interesting qualifier, to be honest. It was a very European heavy qualification with what you had: Ireland, France, Wales, Scotland, and Poland. So 5 teams in there from Europe doing brilliantly well. It was high scoring matches, really attacking hockey throughout that, and it was, unlike the women's, it was disappointing to see that the men's Chilean side just didn't do quite as well. I think they finished up in 7th. But still plenty to build on. Not a dominant male team in Chile, but again, they're coming along nicely. You then head over to Egypt for the next men's leg. This took place in Egypt. It was between the 1st and the 7th of March. Again, another eight teams. You had England, Pakistan, Japan, Malaysia, Egypt, Austria, and the US, but the US did leave. just at the end of the group stages, or a couple of matches into the group stages, due to everything that was happening in the world. So your final standings were England, Pakistan, and Japan were your top three that qualified. Just fantastic results. Good to see how things were going. And, Malaysia then qualified as the best fourth ranked team across the two men's tournaments. Great to see. Solid team. Interesting to see how they get on. I think they were unlucky in a couple of matches, which meant that they didn't get that top three. So it's really good to see them getting across. Yes, that puts Poland out, but Malaysia slightly stronger, have a good lead in from a couple of their home leagues still on at the minute. So hopefully that gets them with a good run into the World Cup in August. You had the key storylines are obviously England, dominant performance throughout, as you would expect. They won the final 4-1 against Pakistan. They were the top scoring team with 19 goals. I would have been shocked if they didn't really win this qualifying tournament, really. Pakistan came in second. Huge resurgence for them. Good to see. They beat Japan in a really tight semi-final 4-3, which then obviously secured them direct qualifying. Good to see from Pakistan. You can see they've built well off the Pro League, despite everything that's happening with their governing body. So really good. Hopefully they build upon this, keep that momentum going, and August for them, another solid chance to do well. Who knows? They could qualify out of the group. They could do well. You never know with Pakistan. I think it'll be an interesting one to watch. And obviously you have Japan taking third place in the bronze medal match. They came from 2-0 behind to beat Malaysia 5-4. So an unbelievably tight match. So again, it'll be good to see if they come against each other again in the World Cup. It was a good Asia and European mix. Strong teams from both. High scoring tournament, really high scoring tournament. It was 100 plus goals in the tournament combined, so unbelievable. It was a much more open and attacking style of hockey compared to the teams in Chile. But I think that is probably because of the teams that were there. The Chilean leg for the men, all those teams really tight. Anything could happen with them. So it was probably a much more conservative effort from those teams. They were putting their full effort out, but they didn't want to risk anything because the games were so tight. While I think this Egypt leg, you had slightly bigger gulfs in ability between those teams, so you could go all out with a bit more reassurance that you probably had a better chance of reaching that top 3, top 4, compared to the teams that were in Chile. We'll then get on our plane and fly over to India for the final women's leg. This took place between the 8th and the 15th. It took place in Hyderabad in India. Again, your 8 teams: India, England, Scotland, Italy, Uruguay, Wales, Korea, and Austria. We had England, India, Scotland as your top 3. Good, solid storylines throughout. You had England, they finished top of the standings. They won the tournament quite easily. It was a strong all-round performance. They had some of their top goal scorers of the tournament in there with 14 goals. They beat India in the final. You had India, who were obviously the hosts, great, consistent through the tournament, strong in the pools and the semi-finals. And it was great to see them qualify in front of a home crowd. I think sometimes the India women take a back seat to the circus, the madness that is the India men's team. So it was great to see them qualify in front of a home crowd, big stadium, plenty of support for them. So it was great to see. Scotland took third place. Great achievement considering they were not really considered for the top 3 qualifying positions at all. Their solid performance through the group stages and the composure that they had in the knockout stages just was fantastic. They were beaten by England in the semi-final, but that didn't sway them. Knuckled down and fought really hard. Again, another really interesting qualifier because it was a lot of European teams. Well, you had England, Scotland, Wales, Austria, and Italy. Much tighter games throughout. Again, I think that's down to the fact that really anything could have happened in this qualifier. You had a couple of teams that maybe the top two, England, India, might have fluctuated between who was going to be top spot, but I think that third spot anyone could have had, and you can see that in some of the results. Tighter matches didn't want to maybe, lose out on something that if you just defended a wee bit more compared to an all-out attack. So it was an interesting style of play as well there. So that was the qualifiers done, which means that the 2026 World Cup is the groups are done. We're ready. It's taking place in Belgium and in the Netherlands, and it starts on the 15th of August. I think there's still some tickets available. Do go check it out. It'll be some tournament of hockey. So in the women's side of things, we have our 4 pools. Pool A is the Netherlands, Australia, Chile, and Japan. That's taking place in the Netherlands. Pool B is Argentina, Germany, USA, Scotland. That's taking place in Belgium. And then Pool C, you have Belgium, Spain, New Zealand, Ireland, which is taking place in Belgium. And Pool D is China, England, India, South Africa, which is taking place in the Netherlands. Really tough groups. You got Pool A there. You're, Netherlands, Australia, Chile, Japan. Tight matches. Netherlands, the Dutch women's team is a force of nature. The most dominant side in, I think, sport in general. So you would expect them to come top. Australia, Chile could be an interesting one. If Chile keep that momentum going from the group stages, you could find they could qualify above them. Look, Japan have been sold throughout, so again, they could throw a surprise result in there. Pool B, Argentina, Germany, USA, Scotland. Whoa, that's just, unfortunately, Scotland have been put into a horrible group there. You've got Argentina and Germany, two of the best teams out there. USA doing extremely well. They're developing brilliantly. Who knows? You could get a surprise result off them. Get yourself into third there, but that'll be a tough one for Scotland, unfortunately, I think. You have then Pool C, Belgium, Spain, New Zealand, Ireland. Technically, Belgium should come on top, but it wouldn't surprise me any of those 4 teams to do really well. Spain, New Zealand, Ireland, any of those guys on their day could do fantastically. And then you've Pool D, you've China, England, India, and South Africa. That's not an easy group. China have been doing very well, obviously silver medalists in Paris. England trying to keep that momentum going. India, again, trying to keep that momentum going. That's going to be an interesting one. South Africa's your dark horse. They're just going to be a tough team to play. Historically, always have been, both the men's and the women's. Physical, difficult matches. That's going to be an interesting group. Wouldn't surprise me if there's a twist in that group at all. We head over to the men's. So Pool A, you've got Netherlands, Argentina, New Zealand, Japan. That's taking place in the Netherlands. Pool B is Belgium, Germany, France, Malaysia. That's taking place in Belgium. Pool C is Australia, Spain, Ireland, South Africa. That's taking place in Belgium. And Pool D, you have England, India, Pakistan, and Wales, and that's taking place in the Netherlands. Wow, those are groups that I wouldn't want to be part of. Netherlands, Argentina, New Zealand, Japan. Tough games. I would assume Netherlands, Argentina top 2, but again, the New Zealand men on their day could do fantastically. Same with the Japanese men. And you've got Pool B, Belgium, Germany, France, Malaysia. Tough battle between the French and the Malaysian teams. You've got Belgium and Germany who are going to have tough matches, and it'll just be interesting to see if France or Malaysia can take a point, get a draw, do something like that just to get the momentum from Belgium and Germany not firing. Could be an interesting one. You have Pool C, Australia, Spain, Ireland, South Africa. That is just the most physical group in world hockey, I think, at the moment. You have Australia, who have just constantly been brick walls, fast, exciting hockey. Same with Spain. South Africa is a physical, tough side, fast hands. You have the two Kassim brothers doing wonders for that team. That's an interesting one. Ireland defensively will do well. It's just how then we can get the ball from our defensive blockade through into the front line to get some goals. I think that could be Ireland's difficulty in that pool. That's an exciting pool. Tough games, physical matches. That could be a really good pool to watch. You have Pool D, England, India, Pakistan, and Wales. I mean, you have the biggest rivalry in sport with India and Pakistan. That will be electric to watch. Pakistan have not disgraced themselves in the past few times they've played each other. That could be interesting. England, India is going to be tight matches. If Wales thrown in there, Wales are a small, tough team. They're going to do well. They might nick a point. Pakistan is going to be focused on the India match. In my opinion, I think they'll focus everything on that India match, which means that Wales could get a result against India or Pakistan with that. They might be able to steal something in. I think for both the men's and the women's in this World Cup, it's going to be so interesting. It'll be interesting to see how the results go in the pool. It'll be interesting to see how the knockout matches go and the crossover matches go after that. I think this could be one of the best World Cups we've had in a while. It's on the 15th of August between Belgium and the Netherlands. Go check it out. Watch it where you can. And we'll be there doing our very best to give you all the results as possible. But then we head into April, which was the EHL, the biggest European hockey club tournament, and one of the best. This was a brilliant tournament for the women. It ended up with the top four of CHHC winning, Den Bosch coming second, Mannheimer, and then Club Campo. Two Dutch teams coming first and second. You had a German team, and then you had your Spanish team. Close final. It was only a 1-0 win for SCHC against Den Bosch. Really close. Mannheimer 3-2 against Club Campo. Another really close match. The results for for those teams throughout, CHHC had a tough enough, they beat Brextada 4-0, Mannheimer 3-0, and then obviously beat Den Bosch in the final. Den Bosch were dominant through the whole EHL, winning everything, but it was only to be pipped on the final 1-0. The all Dutch final, brilliant. SCHC won their first ever EHL title is fantastic. It does show that the Dutch teams in women's hockey are still so dominant. But it was good to see that, Mannheim from Germany and Club Campo coming through, still thereabouts. So it'll be interesting to see how, again, those clubs develop. I think it's always really interesting in the EHL. You always think of these big, huge, club teams doing fantastically, but actually third and fourth in the EHL is a brilliant result. If you think what those two teams have had to do to get to that point, play some of the biggest teams in the world, and still come third and fourth, you've players that would, do absolutely anything for that position. So huge congratulations to SCHC, Den Bosch, Mannheim, and Club Campo for the women's side. We then had the men's results, which was again another close affair. You had Club Campo coming fourth. You had Club Amsterdam coming third. Sorry, not Club Amsterdam. AHBC Amsterdam coming third. Gantois second, and Kampong winning. Another brilliantly close tournament. You had Kampong being Gantois in the final 3-2, right in the death. Brilliant game. Excitement through it. End-to-end hockey. Gantois, I thought maybe were favourites going into it, but Kampong came in, solid team, fantastic team, solid performance, and just at the end, getting the winning goal. Yeah, then the bronze medal match, you had Amsterdam beating Campo. It had to go to a shootout. It was 2-2, and then it had to go to a shootout with Amsterdam winning in the end. Some of the key results, you obviously had the two semi-final matches. Kampong beat Amsterdam 3-2, and Gantois beat Club Campo 3-2 as well. Two close games. You can see the men's EHL is just getting a bit closer with all the results. You had the women's ones where it was 3-0, 4-0 on the lead in. And then even Den Bosch had some slightly bigger results as well. While in the men's, it's 1-0 wins. It's shootout wins. You can see how close these things are. Unfortunately, the two English teams, Old Georgians and Surbiton, didn't make it past that sort of first round of the final 8. They ended up playing each other in their last match, which is interesting. I think the gulf is still massive between, I'll go English and Irish teams, because we do sometimes throw a Banbridge or a Three Rock or a Lisnagarvey over to the EHL. And it's difficult. It's so difficult. The gulf in talent, not in talent, that's a wrong word to say. The gulf in structure and ability is massive. And that is just down to the fact that, those Dutch, Belgian teams, even the Spanish and Germans, if they're not full-time players, they're like 3/4 time players, which makes such a difference. You've got guys over here in the Ulster Irish leagues, which are just, it's unpaid. It's, I have to do it on a weekday training, Tuesday and Thursdays, because I've worked until 5, and they're sacrificing so much time and effort, and it's just because they love the sport. England's slightly different. You have a sort of slight mix, but it's still majority of part-time, for the love of the game players, while you have then these guys focusing solely on hockey. And you can see that, Gantas beat Old Georgians 3-1 and Campo beat Surbiton 3-1, which are big results for teams because of that gulf and the difference. But again, just highlights the Dutch dominance in the men's. Gantois just still doing brilliantly as a European powerhouse in Belgium. And it was one of the most competitive Final Fours, I think, that the men's side have had, which I think is great. Multiple shootouts throughout, several 1-goal victories here and there, and it's interesting to see you had a men's and women's Dutch winners, which again shows the dominance of the Dutch. But it'll be interesting to see how the EHL progresses. It'll be interesting to see how it gets on next year. Players are moving from all of those teams, so we'll see how things go for all of those. But of course, with some of the biggest hockey stories in the world, we also want to bring your hockey stories. We put it out there to say, tell us what's the hockey news in your life, and we got a response, many responses, but I think one is particularly impressive. We had a club over here, Jamore Ladies Hockey Club. They've qualified for the first time in their club's history for the Ulster Hockey Premier League. The club got a late call for a playoff match, which was a tight game. I think it ended 0-0. It went to a shootout, at which Jamore came out on top. It's really impressive. This club seemed to be going from strength to strength. It was only last year that they said that they were able to put out an 8th 11. And then you have your first 11 qualifying for your Premier League, just under the highest league you can be in the All Irelands and things. So just fantastic results going for them. It'll be interesting to see how they get on next season, and we wish them all the very best. But if you have any stories that you want to share with us, be it for club, for personal, anything like that, please send us. All the information needs in the description below. We want to hear from you. We want to share your stories to everyone as well. But guys, thank you very much for watching and listening. I do apologize again for this being late and probably being a bit longer than the other ones, just because I had to fit 2 months worth of hockey into things. May recap will be next. Exciting May. We've got several things happening, a lot of end of league playoffs and things for trophies. So it'll be interesting to see how some of those results go. But guys, thank you very much. If you don't want to watch my face for 25 minutes, which is understandable, you can listen to us on all your podcast networks as well. But do like, subscribe, give us a rating, share with your friends. Let's get hockey going again, and we'll see you next time.